ThatGreatBusinessShow.com is brought to you by De Facto Shaving Oil, the best anyone can get. Made in Ireland, sold worldwide.
Welcome to episode 70 of That Great Business Show, posting on January the 14th, 2022. I'm Conall O'Moran. On this episode of what our listeners like to call Ireland's best business podcast, we have two very different businesses, but by chance both founders have served their time abroad and decided it was time to come home. We're calling this the Back for Business episode. If you have a son, daughter, sister, brother abroad, and you'd love them to come home and set up a business, send them a link to this podcast. You'd never know. It might just tip the balance to get them home. And we're getting thousands of views per episode on our That Great Business Show LinkedIn page. That's the way to talk to us. Share our link with your friends, anyone in business. And this week, anyone who said they were thinking of coming back to Ireland to set up business, share it with them. Share it with your followers. And thank you for doing that. That Great Business Show is made possible by our sponsor, De Facto Shaving Solution. You can help them grow by buying their product, the world's best shaving oil. Get it at defactoshave.com, and you can help them by finding them high energy, knowledgeable distributors who know the grooming sector inside out anywhere in the world. De Facto founder Tom Murphy is waiting patiently by his telephone for your call. My first guest today is Barry Prost. He's co-founder of Yala, a company that appears to have re-engineered the recruitment process, particularly aimed at smaller companies that can't afford big recruitment prices. Their business is a perfect barometer for what's happening in the real world of business. Starting with just 2 people, they built a team of 30, dropped to 6 during COVID, and are rebuilding again, and now have a staff of 23. So they share your pain and gain. And as I mentioned earlier, Barry has brought his business home. He has participated in a Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade-backed program run by the massive TeamGBS supporter Paula Fitzsimons, called Back for Business. Check out backforbusiness.com. One area of specialisation for Yala is the construction sector, and I did say to Barry that if he finds construction workers, he's struck pure gold. I loved his answer to that. He told me that in the industry, that the go-to phrase at the moment is, if they come, we will build it. And I love that. Barry Prost, co-founder of Yala, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Delighted to be here, Conall.
That's a lovely one-liner.
Look, thanks for your time, yeah. And, very happy to be here today.
What is Yala? Why Yala? Where did the name come from? And.
Yeah, good question. We get asked that a lot. So Yala, we wanted something different. We were coming back from the Middle East. We saw an opportunity to provide a different type of recruitment service in Ireland. And we wanted the name to reflect that difference, if you like. The traditional recruitment names might be,
Prost Recruitment.
Could well be, absolutely. Yeah, typically a couple of names in there. And they sound like legal firms a lot of the time. And we wanted a kind of a 2-syllable, easy word to remember. And also Yala, actually in Arabic means let's go. So it was kind of a nod to our 10 years in the Middle East as well.
Because you had been in Bahrain.
We were in Bahrain for 10 years, and made the move back home primarily for family reasons. I think is usually the reason people come home. We left our kind of the sunny climate of the Middle East and our shiny offices over there, and had to found ourselves 2 guys, myself and Jamie Groom, sitting looking at 2 guys in a potted plant in an office above an event management company in the across the M50. So
did the potted plant do more work in the first couple of months than the pair of you?
We certainly spent a lot of time looking at the potted plant, looking at each other, and having to sort of do it all over again. So that was kind of an interesting experience. And certainly, I know, I'm delighted to sort of to give a shout out to Paula Fitzsimons and Back for Business.
Going to say,
yeah. I thought I'd get there first, Carroll.
Well done, you.
No, Paula's been brilliant, and I noticed listening to your show, she's been mentioned a few times as a hire in a heartbeat,
supporter.
Which I would certainly support. Paula's brilliant. I mean, she's a real champion and cheerleader for businesses, and couldn't be more grateful to Paula and the Back for Business program.
What did it do for you?
Yeah. We were back, and I think like a lot of entrepreneurs coming home, or anyone coming home really after a period of time. I was chatting to one of my colleagues yesterday from the Middle East, and he's said the same thing. You know, when you come back after especially 10 years, you realize your network just isn't there anymore, or certainly has diminished quite a lot. And I think what Back for Business does, I mean, just to give a quick summary of what the program involves. I mean, it's mentorship from really fantastic business people, entrepreneurs.
Who was your mentor?
Yeah, I had a number of mentors. I was lucky enough to kind of be engaged twice in the program. So Brian Crowley, who is COO of Broadlake, Susan Spence, president of
Susan
Softco.
Spence co-hosts this show sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm at her again to see whether she'll co-host it again very soon.
Yeah, she's brilliant. And Anya Den as well, who co-founded and sold Altify. So certainly, you get it's structured roundtable meetings with lead entrepreneurs and then other business people who are in the same position as you, trying to set up and grow businesses. So
if you have these mentors, what are they actually physically doing for you when you sit around your table? What Susan Spence, since we know her, what was she saying to you? Well, I mean, I suppose what the entrepreneurs do really well is that they've got such fantastic experience in terms of growing and in some cases selling really highly successful businesses. So they know the questions to ask, and they also know what honest feedback to give. And a lot of them, they ask direct questions and they give direct feedback. And I think that's what you need. You need honest feedback as an entrepreneur as to how you're doing. And I think certainly, again, working in a small business, there is sort of this element sometimes of being in a kind of an echo chamber where there might be a few of you sitting in a room and it's the same ideas going round and round. And there's real value in getting external input, whether it's from other businesses or especially from really successful other entrepreneurs who've built and grown these large businesses. And I have to give out a shout out to the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, because they are backers of it.
Absolutely,
is KPMG. Is that the other?
Yeah. So in addition to the roundtable meetings with the entrepreneurs, what Paul also does is organise masterclasses with exactly experts like KPMG and Beecham's. I think KPMG run workshops on, financial management and KPIs, which I found very useful. And then Beecham's, give advice on shareholder agreements and company setups, etc. So, yeah.
You better start talking about Yala, because you'll run out of time and you'll have given Paul a great shout out, but you won't have given yourselves anything.
100%. Well, look, I mean, in terms of what we did...
You're in recruitment, and the big question at the moment is the obvious one, the Great Resignation, or, as I saw it, actually yesterday, I was reading about, people are now calling it the Great Retirement. That is where people are going. They've actually said, I'm out of here and I'm just going to retire. Now, I don't know whether you're seeing that.
Not necessarily so much the retirement, I wouldn't say, but we are certainly seeing the Great Resignation is in full swing. And I think there was a study there by a competitor who shall remain nameless. I think it was Morgan McKinley said that
that's the way I like to do
more than 80% of people are going to be considering a career move in the next 12 months. And I think
what's the norm? I mean, considering a career move, I mean, I'd love to be, I don't know, a surfer or a pilot, I don't know what, but you consider, but then you say reality bites and you say, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I heard an interesting comment there that the average person is going to have 4 careers, which because I think that sounds like
I've
a lot,
done that
right?
already. Yeah,
4 careers. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, there you go.
I might have a 5th.
You're pioneering that. There you go, Carroll. 4. I mean, but if you think about it in the context of the average career length these days, it's 40 years, right? We're all going to be retiring later, so it probably doesn't sound that unrealistic. But I think in terms of what's driving the Great Resignation, I mean, there's so many factors at play. There's certainly 5 key ones we see. There's, first of all, the pent-up demand. People held on to their jobs for dear life during COVID. And then you're now seeing that kind of release into the market as people become a bit more certain and confident. And I think remote working has its part to play as well. I think something we've noticed is that, remote working kind of, while it's fantastic and it's brilliant for employees, it kind of weakens workplace ties. And I think it sort of loosens that psychological contract.
Which means that people are happy to move on.
Exactly. You're sitting at home and you're working in your office or your bedroom or whatever. You don't have that same bond with your employer or your colleagues. I mean, I just don't think that's possible to achieve.
That's the benign view of that. What about the malign one, which would be, God, it's great. I never have to look at Barry's face again or whatever.
I'm sure that's a real motivator in our business. But look, I think humans crave. I think there was I was reading something from a Harvard professor that said that humans crave that kind of casual interaction, and I think that's something that the remote working piece is yet to solve. How to marry those two things, the flexibility of remote working with the human interaction that people are really looking for, I think, still.
So how, if somebody's listening to this and they want either to retain, which is the big one, obviously, because it's cheaper, or to attract people during this Great Resignation, any ideas, any 3 top tips? We always love 3 top tips.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, unfortunately, and I'm reluctant to put this number 1, but it just comes to mind. But I think in terms of looking at, your salary scale, unfortunately, that is, salaries are being pushed up, and that is going to be a factor. And I am reluctant to say.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
It was on a BBC website, and for lawyers starting out in the UK, there's such a demand for talent. What are lawyers? They'll obviously be top end now, so the kids coming out of the top universities. What do you think they're going to be paid in sterling in the UK, according to the BBC? Think of a number and make it very
50,000.
150,000 pounds sterling.
I made you sound really good now. There you go.
No, it wasn't me. I'm not a lawyer, unfortunately. Yeah. But it's madness.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have inflation. You can have 5-10% inflation, and people can live with it.
It is madness, absolutely. And it's, where does it end? I suppose that's
in tears, I'd say.
Yeah. And even some of the graduate salaries here seem unsustainable for people coming out of university in certain professions.
Such as?
Name that tune. I mean, certainly we're looking at, graduate engineers being paid kind of 45,000-50,000 per annum.
And these would be 23-year-olds, yeah?
Yep.
That's expensive, right?
Yeah.
And somebody has to pay for that somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to know about the price of their house, they might find out that that's part of it is that the wage element is going up and up and up.
Absolutely, yeah, no, for sure.
Speaking of the construction sector, because I know that you're big on that, I want to talk to you about that. Before that, can I take a quick short break? Because remember, these great business insights are brought to you, as always, by De Facto, the world's best shaving oil. Get it at defactoshave.com.
Make one small switch. Switching from shaving foam to all natural De Facto shaving oil will give you the smoothest, softest shave ever. Switching from shaving oil to De Facto helps stop 20 million non-recyclable shaving foam cans go to landfills every year. Switching from shaving oil to De Facto will save your skin, your pocket, and your planet. defactoshave.com.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of TeamGBS.
Subscribe today to That Great Business Show on your favourite podcast platform, including Apple and Spotify.
And I am here with a co-founder of a company called Yala, and he is Barry Prost. And they are recruiters, and one of the areas in which they recruit big is in the construction sector. What are you seeing in the construction sector at the moment, Barry?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, looking at what one, looking at one job portal's numbers, the demand for staff is only hotting up. I think Indeed had around about 1,300 vacancies in construction in January 21, and in November that's doubled almost to 2,500.
And the problem is, are they being filled, or is it just they're empty?
Yeah, I think there are real issues around resourcing in construction, and I was speaking to one commercial director from a contractor this week, and he actually had to turn down a €60 million job because he couldn't resource it. With people, exactly.
Yeah. And what's going to happen? We were bringing in Eastern Europeans, and things have improved hugely over that side of the world, so they're not coming over here.
Yeah, well, I think what we saw, there is that, and then also what happened during COVID is that a lot of they reckon that up to around about 10,000 workers left Ireland, so we lost, quite a significant number of workers during COVID to more open economies at the time than ours.
Are you, as Yala, trying to attract people from overseas here, and if so, what kind of mechanisms do you use?
I think so. I mean, I was, for sure, and I think the companies that are open to other labour markets are doing really well in terms of bringing people in. I was speaking to Liam Kenny, he's the MD of John Paul Construction, and they've got 21 nationalities working across the business, and I think that's very impressive. In terms of really kind of looking at other, because the Irish market's tapped out, like you said. Eastern Europe is the same, and you really need to look beyond the traditional.
So
markets.
where are you looking where you weren't looking?
Well, we see there's great talent coming from the likes of South Africa. And we also see clients bringing people across from Asia, Philippines. What's
the visa situation? We forget because we think we can go anywhere in the world, particularly to the States, without visas. Do you think they all have to get Irish visas or visas for Ireland? Though, did I also see that we're easing up on that because we're being wise finally?
Yeah, absolutely. There's the critical skills. So anybody on that, that should be not plain sailing, but straightforward. You hear there are kind of stories of delays and that, but there's ways like employers can become trusted partners, to kind of speed up that process. So certainly ways of getting around that, and the government do seem to be, adding more and more skills to that list.
Well, just to read out that phrase that you used, if they come, we will build it. Are you going to find these people? I don't mean is Barry Prost, but will we, the country, find these people? Well,
yeah, sure. I mean, there is a kind of an alternative view. I mean, if you listen to what Tom Parlin says, he's the Director General of the CIF. I mean, he points to issues around, lack of government resources in planning and local authorities, and also availability of utilities. So which isn't there in Ireland at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues
there. So it's not just a resourcing issue, but certainly, I think it is of course a factor. And I think if one solution from our perspective is, from a point of view of looking at apprenticeships in terms of upskilling, and then also kind of, having more of an international focus in terms of where looking at other labour markets to attract talent from.
And I presume they're also looking for the same thing. I mean, Britain, I presume, can't find people. Sure. Well, we've seen that as well. Yeah. So, it's a worldwide problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
You better, before we let you go, and we have a few more minutes, you better start telling me about how wonderful and why Yala is so brilliant and why everybody should use Yala.
No problem.
You have a different model.
We do have a different model, exactly. And, just on the, yes, we have expertise in construction, but we're also working with clients, from technology, retail, finance, et cetera. We're working across 12 sectors at the moment.
You do everything, I'm sure, because that's the way business works in Ireland. It's just as a matter of interest. Is there a sector that you won't or don't touch?
Good question. Let me think about that. I'll come back to you on that one. There's certainly sectors that we're probably more interested than other sectors, but there's we haven't blackballed any particular sectors that I can think of right now. We also work in hospitality,
which is another big problem area.
Oh, huge, yeah, for sure. I mean, even down to kitchen porters. I mean, it's very challenging. So in terms of Yala, the Yala model, if you like. I mean, what we noticed and and what we learned from our previous experience is that working on a success only basis is, it's very inefficient, and it doesn't provide a great service for the client and a great outcome for the agency. Sure. So no placement, no fee. So we'll work on you. If let's say Conal, we're working with you, you're looking for X number of people. If we don't find those people for you, you don't pay us a fee. So what we were finding
that's good for me.
It is and it isn't. So it depends on the quality of service you're getting. And what we found is that service doesn't create a huge amount of commitment from either, from the agency or the client. So therefore, if the agency not hugely incentivized to work with you on a.
But is that not the purest of incentive? Find me people and I will pay you.
Sure, yeah, but but unfortunately, what's happening, given the fact that there are so many entrants into the agency market, companies are working with up to 50 agencies. Recruitment agencies. Absolutely, yeah.
That is madness.
That is complete madness.
Hello, it's Barry here. Sorry, which one are you?
Absolutely, complete madness. Yeah. And we just found that was unsustainable.
Okay, so what have you done differently?
So what we did was we set up a monthly subscription embedded recruitment model. So rather than you saying to us, fill this vacancy and we'll pay you a fee, we provide you with a recruiter or a team of recruiters, virtually from our business who are embedded in your business and work exclusively with you on a month-to-month basis. And usually the contracts are kind of 6 months to 12 months.
And people would love that from your side, I can see, because that's what the business model in Silicon Valley is. They love recurring income.
Recurring revenue, yeah.
But if if I'm hiring you, am I not lumbered? Do I need somebody like you for 6 months or a year?
Well, if you're hiring, yes, absolutely. So who we want to talk to and who we can help are high growth startups. And we're also working with major large industry players as well. We're augmenting their talent teams and their expertise. So there's two sides to the business. We're working with startups who maybe don't have any in-house talent expertise, and then we're also working with large talent acquisition teams to give them an additional resource.
Financially, which is the better model for me as an employer that would be using you as a recruiter?
Well, financially, Conal, of course, our embedded recruitment model is much better value. But it is much better value. We drive down. I mean, we drive down the cost by up to 50%.
Would you?
Yeah, compared to contingency recruiting. But
if it's no full, no fee, like I'm getting what I want, whereas the other one, there's just another bloody overhead for me.
Yeah, but we're delivering. What we're finding is that rather than on a no phone, no fee basis, as you put it, you're filling maybe 10% of the vacancies you're taking on. Where now we're filling up to 80% with clients, because it's a much more a dedicated service.
I know you're going to tell me that, but honestly, do people buy into that? They do.
100%, and 80%. Thankfully we have, and thankfully we've got the case studies to demonstrate the delivery. So,
now, where did you spot this idea? I mean, I presume it's been done elsewhere.
Yeah, it's something that, like I said, when we came back, it's something that we've been working towards, and we now have kind of the name of the product, is what we call it, is Rent a Recruiter, and that is and it is absolutely, there's companies in the US, there's companies in the UK, etc. It's less common in Ireland though.
Speaking of US, UK, etc., is the other side of your business is overseas?
Yes, absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I was hoping to kind of pick your brain on that today.
Forgot.
Yeah. So we're keen to this year. I mean, for us now, we've kind of consolidated our position in Ireland. We're obviously keen to grow within the Irish market, but we're looking externally now to particularly the markets in the US and Germany.
Are you? US?
Yes, yeah. So I know you're involved with the
Connecticut Business Association. And if you want to get into Connecticut, you talk to me after this. I didn't know you were going to talk to me about this. Yeah. And Jeremy, so why US? I always look at the US and I think, God, they must have everything over there already.
True. Yeah, absolutely. but it's also a very attractive market.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And we feel that given our relationships with, for example, US-based technology companies in Ireland, we can reverse market into that region and leverage our relationships here to win business over there. Germany, same theory. I mean, we're getting a lot of demand. We're seeing a lot of inquiries come from Germany in terms of, clients looking for staff. So and obviously Germany, unlike the UK, are still in the EU. So, so we would see that as a kind of a natural stepping stone for us into mainland Europe.
Speaking of the B word, the Brexit word, are you doing anything in the UK?
We've looked at it. We're continuing to kind of to look at it.
Are you put off by Brexit?
I think so. Yeah.
Isn't it really interesting? I mean, yet again, what everybody in Ireland knows. I mean, we're probably all singing the same hymn. Is that they're all mad?
Yeah.
With the Brexit, but that's a living example of it. Is just our natural market would be the UK, and you're just put off it.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, they're going through some tough times there. There is a, we're just not sure of the level of demand and how quickly we could grow there, whereas the other markets seem more attractive for us.
Longer term, grow, and then sell.
I think so. I mean, our ambition, we're managing, payroll about 40 now. We'd love to grow that to about 200. I think that is potentially on the horizon in the future, but not anytime soon. Yeah.
And the next thing we're going to help you with through the Irish Connecticut Business Council is to see whether we can get you a foothold in Connecticut. And as I keep telling everybody about Connecticut, it's the halfway point between New York and Boston on the East Coast. A beautiful place to be. Before I let you go, Barry, your question that you have prepped for is... Who would you hire in a heartbeat?
Thanks.
Don't tell me you're working off notes. You should remember this.
You're giving away my secrets now. Look, I mean, it's a great question. I think one person, especially given what we've just spoken about, would be Andrew Mackin, of the CEO of the Mackin Group.
Do you know
I'm sure he's not looking for a job.
Very, very
great.
well.
Maybe you can get
he's
him
on the Ireland Connecticut Business Council. He's one of the founders, and he's coming onto the show.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. We have a podcast too, and I interviewed him for our podcast, The Talent Fix, just to give it a shout out there.
You can, anytime you want, shout it out. The Talent Fix.
The Talent Fix, yeah.
How often do you podcast?
We're doing once a month at the moment. Okay. Yeah. It's
for those who do not know Andy Mackin, Andy's from Cork. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
He'll tell you the rest.
Yeah, but very, very generous with his time. And he's grown a really successful talent business in the US, and obviously, we'd love to kind of follow in his.
Was he your hire in the heartbeat?
Be a hire in the heartbeat. Absolutely.
He is going to be so thrilled by that. That's really cool.
Yeah, if he's looking for a job, no problem.
Well, I shall pass it on to him as we post to tomorrow. That's great. Barry Prost, co-founder of Yala. I know you did give him a shout out. Your other co-founder is?
Jamie Groom, yeah.
So you better say nice things about him.
Yeah, Jamie, well, yeah, I mean, he's my business partner now for 10 years, so yeah,
you
absolutely.
And the potted plant and Jamie, yeah?
Exactly, yeah, we've been through it all now at this stage, yeah.
Yeah, Barry Prost, co-founder of Yala, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Thinking of travel? If so, make sure to make De Facto, the world's best shaving oil, your choice of travel companion. A 25ml bottle of De Facto means no hassle at airports, no bulky cans to carry, and the guarantee of the world's best shave. DeFactoShave.com.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of TeamGBS.
Backing great women-led businesses on every show. That Great Business Show.
I was recording a podcast episode for Love Irish Food the other day with two world-class marketeers, Mark Ryan, formerly of Glanbia and now of Dublin-based Plantit, and Greta Hamill, formerly of Cadbury Mondelez, and now helping drive an incredible international growth story at Donegal Bakery Promise. What both of these people have is an outstanding CV working at the very, very highest level of international marketing with world-class knowledge that they've brought home to Ireland. And that's just what my next guest has. Alice Carroll, co-founder of Fox's Bow Whisky, has a CV as long as your arm, having worked with international drinks brands all over the world. Her CV even includes a qualification in advanced social engagement and influencer strategy, another thing my careers guidance teacher never mentioned to me. However, in keeping with today's theme, Alice has brought all that knowledge back home to Limerick to make what the founders claim is a very different whisky aimed at a very different audience. Alice Carroll, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for making me sound so impressive, Jeannie.
But you do have a fabulous CV. Who did you work with for how long?
So mainly in whiskey across the board. I actually started with Pernod Ricard through the Jameson graduate program, which I know you had mentioned recently enough on another podcast.
I'm delighted that you listen.
I do. Of course I do. But so that's how I got into...
How good is that program?
Oh my God, it's fantastic. Like, I literally can't say enough positive things about it. You know...
You came out of college and what had you done?
I had done business with French.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with marketing.
I did. So I majored in marketing. So in UL, you kind of do a little bit of everything and then you major in kind of your specialty in second year onwards. So I had majored in marketing. I knew I wanted to do something to do with marketing, but to be honest, like, you know, the way some people have their vocation, they know exactly what they want to do. And a lot of my friends were like that. They knew they wanted to be teachers. They knew they wanted to be vets, medicine, all the rest of it.
I think they're all mad. They've no idea.
Oh, I didn't have a clue. Didn't have a notion. So I was kind of between arts and business. I ended up going down the business route, which I'm delighted with now, obviously. But yeah, coming out of college, didn't 100% know what I wanted to do. Knew it was something in the world of marketing, but you're like, marketing is so broad. Like, now looking back, I realise how little I knew. I was kind of thinking like Don Draper-esque kind of advertising world, but I was lucky that I kind of
You just want to wear the high heels and those dresses and all that. Or maybe you want to
all the glam. Yeah. But so ended up going into the graduate program.
How did you get onto the Jameson program?
I think my memory of it is a little bit hazy, but I remember going to a careers fair and like everything was very practical. Like all the stands were very practical. And then there was this really sexy, cool stand that like probably on a very basic level was giving out like some kind of swag. And I was like, oh my God, this is the job that I want. Didn't really know anything that came to do with it. But
the marketing worked.
It worked. Oh my God, yeah.
And then you went from there. Because talk to me through that program because I just love it so much.
Yeah, so with it, you're placed in a different country in the world. So
which one did you go to?
I went to France to begin with. The program is up to 3 years long. So you start in one country. Generally speaking, you move in your second year and potentially in your third year as well. So I stayed on the program for about a year and a half. So I started in France. It's brilliant because even though it is a marketing program, you end up kind of getting a taste for like every facet of the business. So in France, I was working really closely with the sales team, trade marketing. So that would be like, you know, working on things for executions in bars and in retail and things like that. And then the brand team as well, who kind of come up with the overarching strategy for that country. So that was brilliant. So did that for about a year and a half, went to Canada for the last 6 months, let's say. Never thought, like I wanted to move to Hong Kong. So like it was opposite sides of the world that I ended up in. So to a certain extent, they do kind of dictate where you go based on, like they understand the skill sets that are required in different markets. So for me, I ended up in Toronto. It was never on my radar. It's my second love. It's my second home. Like I moved home now almost 2 years ago, but like I miss it so much. Such an incredible city.
I've only heard wonderful, wonderful things.
Amazing.
It is, I think, is the culinary capital of the world, is it?
I don't know about that, but I know it's like statistically the most multicultural capital in the world.
And I think because of that you can get any food that you ever dreamt of.
Absolutely, it's amazing.
To the highest standard.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
What brought you home?
What brought me home? A few things, like, to be honest, I had been abroad for like 7 of the last 8 years. So I just was kind of ready to come back. I was excited to bring back some of the ideas and like cultural influences that I had seen abroad. I wanted to be closer to family. So in my head, I was like, I'll go back to Ireland. I'll do a stint there. I'll see how I feel. And sure, if I want to go off again, like, there's nothing tying you down. But I definitely missed home, and I had come home kind of a couple of times a year, Christmas, things like that. And I think particularly coming home at Christmas, you get such a buzz. Like Ireland is so amazing that...
That was pre-COVID.
Exactly, pre-COVID God, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of it.
And then you landed here on the same day that Ireland went into lockdown.
I literally
timing,
landed the day we went into lockdown, like the first lockdown. So I don't know if you'd call that good timing or terrible timing, but sure, that's the way it happened.
And had you got the idea for because it's a broader than just the whiskey that you're actually into.
Yeah.
But had you got the idea before you came home?
Yeah, so I actually can't take any credit for the idea. It was my co-founder, Tony. So he was living in San Francisco, was in a bar with a couple of friends who were visiting from home. And they had an unbelievable whiskey collection in the bar. And they were trying all different whiskies they hadn't tried before, like mainly Irish whiskies.
Purely
so a lot of fun.
For research.
Of course, obviously. But what they noticed was kind of that the majority, I should say, of Irish whiskies that are available on the market are what we would call heritage brands. So they're looking at like the tradition of Irish whiskey making in Ireland, you know, with that kind of the imagery is like the castles and the rolling hills and quite like backward historic looking, which, you know, is brilliant and it has its place. But he was kind of like, okay, what I get excited about, you know, being an Irish person who lives abroad and talking to people in America and for me, people in Toronto, you get excited about the modern vibrancy of Ireland. So when people start talking about the rolling hills and the sheep, you're almost trying to like overemphasize how modern Ireland is, how vibrant, how creative, like this new wave of amazing things that are happening and people that are coming out of Ireland. So he thought like, surely that should extend to whiskey. And in particular, being a proud Limerick man, he was very much inspired by the creativity specifically coming out of Limerick over the last couple of years. So that's where the idea came from. So he got onto me. I was a neighbour of his. That's how we knew each other from back home.
But did he know that you might be open to this now?
No, so I think he was coming to me more from a sense of like completely vetting the idea because, you know, like we all get notions when we're in a bar, we think we've come up with the best idea ever with our friends and usually it dies after that night. Whereas this was one that he was eager to kind of progress and see if it was something that, you know, is potentially worth looking into. So he knew I was working in whiskey. He gave me a call and it felt really serendipitous because I had already made the mental decision at that stage to move back to Ireland. My partner had moved ahead of me. So when he rang me, he was like, look, is this idea absolutely ludicrous or is it something that we should look into? And I was like, literally, like it was like a gift that just fell out of the sky into my lap. I was like, the two things I love, whiskey and Limerick. Like I'm literally talking about moving home. I'm talking about handing in my notice. I don't know what I want to do next, but I know I want to do something to do with whiskey.
You were going to hand in your notice without having something else?
I was going to go travelling for a while, which I did, okay. But I shortened my travelling stint. But yeah, so yeah.
Now, whiskey. Talk to me about whiskey because I bet you, and I don't know, that you are buying it. Are you from the Northern Distillery?
Great Northern Distillery, yeah, and I know you had John on.
Yeah, John's
amazing,
an old pal,
man.
A great, fantastic guy. And then you tell me that it's something different. Now, everybody who comes onto the programme with a whiskey says it's different because, of course, it is. It's all about the nose, the taste, the blossoms or whatever else. Your one, you say, is floral.
Yeah, we would say floral.
Just, you see, I've been reading.
Oh, very good. Very good. And I actually brought a little sample for you because I thought it would be very unfair.
Actually, the guys out there are very happy.
I can see the smiles. But yeah, so before we get into, I suppose, the actual whiskey itself, as a precursor, the thing that made me really excited about this project, aside from it being Limerick and whiskey, my two loves, was I had worked with incredible whiskey brands for like the last bones of a decade and all of kind of the category leaders. But I was getting a little bit frustrated because time and time again, we were doing this consumer research. We were looking into the new generation of whiskey drinker, what they wanted, what they expected. And we were seeing that what resonated with them was like inclusivity, you know, like my generation now and like Gen Z and, you know, they're...
People like me, you mean?
People like you, including people like you. I mean, it's not an age thing, it's more a mentality thing, but they are looking for a seat at the table. Like they're looking for brands to make them feel included. But whiskey, Irish whiskey included, is still very exclusive. Like there's a lot of rules around it. There's a lot of preconceptions that are very outdated. Like even the idea that it's a man's drink, that it's a strong drink, that there's a certain way to drink it. You know, like all of that can be intimidating. And like, I've worked in whiskey for the last couple of years. I've been to like so many distilleries, seen the process, been so educated on it, all the rest of it. And sometimes I'd even feel intimidated by like all of the rules surrounding the category. And we knew that that didn't resonate with the kind of new generation of drinkers.
So you're tearing up the rule book.
This is it. That's what we're aiming to do anyway. But yeah, so I think it's harder.
So what have you done? I mean, you've put it into various different casks and all. And I know one of them is a sherry cask, if I remember. The branding looks and is very different. Who's your artist? Who created the brand?
So the agency we worked with is called Together We Create. They're based in Dublin. And then we had an artist called...
Then it's going to work if it's from Dublin, you see.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Well, actually, in fairness to them, they immersed themselves in Limerick. They came down for like a full week. We told them all the places to go to. We gave them all the slang, exactly what it meant. These are the people you need to look into. Here are like the emerging creatives, all the rest of it. And they fully immersed themselves into it. Like now every time we talk to them, they like sign off their emails with the boy, the kid, or like yurt, or all the rest of it. So we feel like they're honorary Limerick now. But
and the picture, though, the visuals are lovely.
Thank you.
They are very different.
Yeah.
And I also read that you have put a rugby ball onto it. I don't know why.
Well, we haven't. So we partnered with... Why?
Rugby belongs in Leinster.
Rugby and Limerick? What is this? It's so funny. Like, my partner's from Belfast and we were talking about rugby recently and he was like, yeah, but rugby is like this kind of exclusive, like rich boy kind of sport. Not in Limerick. Like in Limerick, it's like the expression that they use is it's dockers and doctors. So like, yeah, it's very inclusive.
Earls, that brilliant guy, is the exemplar of exactly what you're discussing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So
listen, you better start talking about the actual business because I would talk to you forever now. I knew this was going to happen because I just had seen what you were like. The business itself, you are now competing against absolutely every other whiskey.
Yeah.
Discuss.
Okay. So first of all, I think like it's fair to say, and I've seen loads of people say this, that there's a new Irish whiskey being released every single week and it's hard to keep up. And it is. But the market is far from saturated because Irish whiskey only makes up 3% of total whiskey sales globally. We are such a small fish in a big pond. There's so much room for growth. And the positive impact that has from a business perspective is like everyone else, all the other new brands, all the established brands, it's a very much a community. So like everyone has been so sound to us, have been giving us so much advice, things to avoid that they fell into pitfalls and all the rest of it. So there isn't that like mad competitive nature that you get in some industries.
Wait until you get bigger.
Well, actually, like, in fairness, maybe I'll eat my words now.
I always tell people businesses back each other and they'll help each other so long as you're not eating their lunch or in this case, drinking their dram.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But like, I think a rising tide at this stage carries all ships and we're still so small that like the more we band together, the more we can kind of combat and steal share from the scotches and the bourbons of the world.
Alice, I'm going to hold you there a second because we have to go for a quick break. Let me take a quick break, as I say, and remember, these great stories are made possible by our sponsor, De Facto, the world's best shaving oil. Get it at defactoshave.com.
Viscosity. When you shave, you want the highest viscosity because it helps the blade run smoother. De Facto, the world's best shaving oil, has incredible viscosity. That's why De Facto leaves your face, underarms or legs nick-free. Higher viscosity makes blades last longer. De Facto is the best for your skin and your pocket. defactoshave.com.
Everyday accounting can be a bit of a drama for SMEs. However, BigRedCloud.com takes the drama away with its simple and easy to use cloud-based accounting and payroll software designed for SME owners. Raise and send invoices, manage VAT reports and obligations, run management reports, link directly to Irish banks, automatically import purchase invoices, and so much more. All with 5-star customer support. BigRedCloud.com, 100% Irish owned and a proud member of TeamGBS.
You're listening to That Great Business Show. ThatGreatBusinessShow.com.
And I'm here with Alice Carroll, co-founder of Fox's Bow Whiskey, based in Limerick. And we are talking about how Alice is going to take on Pernod Ricard and the Scotch whiskies and the world. What's the dream?
The dream is world domination. So just like that small little thing. I know the immediate dream is export. So like we launched before Christmas, we were delayed through every possible delay, but we got out there in November and performance so far has been amazing. Like we're starting to kind of get out there with retailers and we're doing a lot of e-commerce with irishmalts.com and things like that. So our next kind of...
E-commerce with?
irishmalts.com. So
I haven't come across them.
They're brilliant. It's two lads down in Cork, like two young guys, and they just are like a jack of all trades. They're just like any problem that you have and you tell them about it, they'll like figure out how to like implement a solution in their business. They're
Irish
fantastic.
Malts, you're coming on to the podcast.
Oh yeah, have them on. And also they'll be highly entertaining. Like they're so Cork, they won't hold back.
That is cool. Now, so another thing is, one of the basics of the business is that you have to fund.
We do.
Because you have to build up your stocks.
We do.
And you are funding. And you would kill me in that unique Limerick way if I didn't mention that you're funding and that you better give it a shout out and see whether TeamGBS might be able to back you.
Yeah, so we have bootstrapped the project up until this point because we obviously had a very specific vision. We're taking a very different path than I suppose, or from a positioning perspective than a lot of existing whiskies. So rather than kind of go to investors and try and sell them on something with no proof of concepts as such, we were like, okay, we'll fund this. We'll get a bit of success under our belt.
I can't hold back.
Go on.
Now you've got 40% proof.
Oh God.
I'm sorry.
God. Oh my God. Are you going to leave that in the podcast?
Of course I am.
Oh my God. Well,
anyway.
actually, if we're being pedantic, we're 43%, but okay.
So you're up, your premium's up. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're looking to raise 250,000, am I right? Or has it gone up again?
It's gone up again only because...
Demand. Go on,
do you know what? Like, we're learning as we're going, to be honest with you. Like, I've never done this before. My co-founder, Tony's never done it before, so...
Tony is Tony...
Foot.
Yeah. With an E.
With an E.
Yeah.
So... Initially, when we had a conversation with the Business Post, we were talking about 250. We were kind of looking at a 6-month runway, but now realistically, we're probably looking at about a 24-month runway. The good news is the opportunities are there. We're having conversations with the export markets. We have distributors in place, all the rest of it. So now it's really about just...
Distributors into where?
So our main markets that we're kind of looking to focus on at the moment are China, Germany and South Africa for our first year.
That's a curious one. China, I understand. I mean, obviously it's vast and therefore they also drink an awful lot of whiskey. Why Germany?
It's a very interesting market for Irish whiskey. They're kind of, well, across the world, most consumers are starting to premiumise anyway, but...
most consumers, that's marketing speak. What does that mean?
Yeah, I do. I do tend to go off into the marketing jargon. I give out about people using the whiskey jargon and I use the marketing jargon myself. Basically... Very simple terms. People are drinking less now than they were before, but they're drinking better.
Okay.
So people are willing to pay, the €39 for a nice bottle of whiskey rather than €20 for something cheap and cheerful, let's say.
Okay, so that's Germany. Is that what you're saying? That's particular to Germany? Or?
It's kind of happening all over the world, but Germany is one of those interesting markets where it is happening. And for us, like... the route to market and things like that is a little bit easier with Germany than some of, I suppose, the Nordic countries and things like that. So we're kind of going to test out Germany as a test market, see how things go, particularly looking at Berlin, because obviously we're leaning into kind of that contemporary urban type of brand and lifestyle, and it obviously aligns quite well with a city like Berlin.
And why not to Canada, to Toronto, your own favourite second home? And because I did see that you also have made a huge hire. A man called Patrick
O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll.
Yes.
Who is?
He is my old boss. He recently
retired.
He was the CEO for Corby, which is Pernod Ricard in Canada.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
And he's now going to be, is he chair or is he non-exec?
He's a non-exec for the time being, yeah.
And why would you not just go straight back to where you have been for the last 7-8 years, back into Toronto, Canada? Yeah,
it is part of our plan longer term. To be honest,
but why not early? I just wonder. Curiosity.
A lot of it is like just being smart about our resources for the time being, both from a monetary perspective, but really from a time perspective. So like what are kind of the easier markets for us to get into, that we know that consumer exists there. We know e-commerce is established there, and that's something we really want to focus on, because we are kind of targeting those digital natives who are more
the what?
Digital natives. I know, am I? Sorry. But no, basically like people who grew up with an iPhone, for lack of a better term. So they're so used to having everything at their fingertips.
What I have seen, and I'll name a name because I have seen them doing it to considerable success. Jameson. Jameson is doing the exact same, is it not? How do you differentiate yourself?
Oh, this is like, I need to be careful here now because I have a lot of friends that are still at Jameson. I love Jameson. I think with a big established brand, you have more to lose. So you're a little bit more risk averse. It's harder to change things because the cogs move a little bit more slowly when you're a big brand. For us, we're very small. We've nothing to lose. Like, we're coming from zero. So it's only up from here. So I think we have the ability to be a little bit more agile, to try things, to test and learn. Alcohol is still, when it comes to e-commerce, it's still relatively new because there were a lot of restrictions in place, like practicalities. How do you check someone's ID when you deliver it? Things like that. So it is slower in terms of e-commerce growth, but it's an area that's really exciting for us. And I think, like, across the board, e-commerce has obviously grown during COVID out of necessity, but now people are starting to see the benefits from it, both from a consumer perspective and a retailer perspective. So that's very exciting.
Is there a constraint on the amount of whiskey available to you? Because I know everybody else is dipping into John Teeling's Northern Distillery, Great Northern Distillery, in fact. So you have to barrel age to get your florals and all the rest. Yeah. So that's a slow process, yeah?
Yeah, it's a slow process.
How do you get around that?
Well, John has just set up an incredible business where he has a lot of whiskey on hand.
Do you know why? If you go back into the history of it, is that he set up, as you know, the whiskey company, and he learnt, because one does, that it takes an awful long time to actually build up the amount of whiskey that you need. Yeah.
But he had incredible foresight, like to be able to predict this problem. The problem is the amount of new brands that want to come to the market. Like, if you were to build a distillery...
That's not a problem for him.
It's not a problem for him. He's the solution. Like, he's laughing. But if you want to... Exactly. If you want to build a distillery, like, let's say that takes you 5 years or 4 years. I don't know how long it takes to build a distillery. And it takes you a couple of mil on the side. But then you have to age your whiskey. And for Irish whiskey, you have to age it for a minimum of 3 years. So you're talking about like 8+ years before you have any type of revenue income. New brands can't afford that unless you have a multinational backing or you're Bono or someone. So he is the solution for new brands like us who have an aspiration. Longer term, we want to have our own distillery. But in the meantime, he has helped us develop a bespoke recipe. We very much are hands-on with the liquid. We knew exactly what we wanted to create. His amazing team up there helped us create it and bring it to life in our vision, because obviously we're not the techies for the development. So yeah, that is the solution.
With your expert nose, mouth, tongue, taste buds, whatever, how would you differentiate your brand from a leading brand? I read about the floral and all. Mm-hmm. Does it actually smell? I think you actually claim it smells of flowers or something, yeah?
Yeah, definitely floral, I would say.
Because you want it to be completely different.
Yeah. So our mix of barrels that we've used bourbon barrels and Oloroso sherry casks, which that's quite common in Irish whiskey. It's a nice combination. So the sherry, they're actually called sherry butts, but they impart like a dried fruit kind of taste. So almost like Christmas cake, if you think of it that way. And then the bourbon would be more kind of the vanilla, honey notes that you'd associate with whiskey. We finished it purposely in a rye barrel because rye is absolutely massive in North America. Like, it was all we were drinking in Toronto. Tony was the same with his friends in San Francisco. We just saw how massive it was, but it's something that hasn't really had the same popularity this side of the Atlantic. So we were really interested in seeing what the impact on actual whiskey would be of using a rye cask. So that's probably the main differentiator for us from a liquid perspective. And to your point, that adds like a weirdly nice, floral aroma when you smell it. But then on the palate, it's actually a little bit spicy. So when you drink it, you do get those sweet notes, but it finishes on this lovely lingering spice.
Because going back to what you were saying earlier, you do want Gen Z or whatever you want to call them, young people.
Yeah.
Because you believe that there is their time and whiskey has come. Actually, that reminds me of a brilliant ad. Was it for Jameson? It was a beautiful print ad, and it said, all those long beer drinking days while waiting for your taste buds to mature or something like that, or waiting for your taste to mature. I always thought that was so clever. Yeah. In other words, 2 fingers to beer, you're now grown up and you're mature and you can drink whiskey.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of kind of rules and preconceptions around whiskey. And one of them is how it should be drank. And like, the analogy that I use is, if anyone told me, I have a coffee cup here, like if anyone told me the right way for me to drink coffee, I tell them to go away. Same with tea. If they start saying like, oh, no, you must put milk in it and it must have sugar, that is the way to drink it, I'd be like, no. The way to drink it is the way I like the taste of it.
Well, how do you drink your whiskey?
I drink it neat.
Yeah.
Because...
Oh, what's the worst you've ever seen? My waddy and whiskey or something?
Do you know what? But this is the point I was going to make. There's no wrong way to drink whiskey.
Like, come on, my waddy.
No, there isn't.
No, my waddy.
If you want my waddy in your whiskey, Connell, you put my waddy in your whiskey.
Before I let you go, you better tell the world that you need money and what kind of money you want, because we're talking about smart money. A lot of money down in Limerick that could... Is there a distillery already in Limerick?
No, there's no distillery in Limerick.
Would that be lovely that you actually founded the distillery for Limerick?
Yeah, it would be fantastic. It needs it.
Yeah.
I agree.
I love Limerick. I've done a lot of work down in UL. I love the place. And so I think that'd give it a little finishing touch.
It would be fantastic. But yeah, I think in terms of the type of money that we're looking for, it's not just about like money. Like, we're not just looking for someone with deep pockets.
But that helps.
It helps. I mean, of course. But
how can anybody give you money?
So you can contact us. You can do Alice at altliquorco.com.
That's the confusion further. That's very poor marketing on your part, because Fox's Bow is the real brand, and then you have altliq .com. Yeah.
altliquorco.com.
Alt liquor, but you're confusing me.
I know, it is confusing.
Yeah. Anyway, if they want you, they'll find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
But you want
I'm on everything.
Their brains and their cash.
Yeah.
Up to, what's the tops you'll take off them?
We're kind of talking about 350 at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah.
From 250. That's not
From
bad.
250, yeah. Just for a longer runway, as I said.
Go for $1 million.
Go for $1 million?
Yeah.
Listen, if you want to give me $1 million, I will not say no.
There is a lot of wealth down in Limerick.
Mm-hmm. And further afield. This isn't just for Limerick people,
but I mean, if they wanted to see... They could claim it. They could actually name it after their son or daughter or something. Wouldn't that be gorgeous?
That would be gorgeous.
You know, the Jim Smith Distillery in the centre of town. I can see it now.
No, Fox's Bow. Like, we need to keep the Fox's Bow name. But Limerick people know Fox's Bow, so
but the actual distillery itself.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Smithfield, for example. Was
fair.
Yeah. What else can anybody do for you? Now, obviously, what about distribution? Because you have been in the business. You know that there are sharp elbows. I'm going to use nice terminology here. They're not going to let you in just like that. Because it doesn't matter how teeny you are. Yeah. Every new brand is a threat. There's a man who is a fighter who has shown how to do real marketing. If you know who I'm talking about, he's made so much money out of that brand, you know. He's sold out now, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. He still has some kind of involvement, but yeah. I think we just keep being very tenacious. Like, I think we just don't take no for an answer.
That part I understand, because you will, and you know, it's not easy. It's just not a quick. You don't rock up to a bar and said, "Will you stock me?" Yeah. So so far now, in fairness, we've been very lucky, because all of the bars and the retailers and everything that we've targeted have been Limerick, because it was really important for us to like genuinely get the city behind us as kind of advocates and ambassadors in their own right before we go further afield. But like today I had a conversation with a retailer here in Dublin, which I thought would be very hard to crack,
We won't mention any names because nothing's signed, sealed, delivered yet. But
say O'Brien's, and I'll tell you why. I am mad keen to have O'Brien's on this show. I have put out a couple of calls for them, but very recently, the most bizarre thing happened, and somebody on the other side of the world said, that's my uncle.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that O'Brien's Wines will come on. Phenomenal story. Not unlike Smith's Toy Store. I don't know whether you saw them. Jesus, they're growing. But anyway, back to O'Brien's.
Amazing.
So
O'Brien's have been an amazing partner as well, to be honest. Yeah. We started with them in Limerick and they were just phenomenal. But yeah, no, what I was going to say was like, there's appetite there when you explain the purpose of the whiskey. Like, we don't look like any other whiskey in the category, and not to diss the category, but our whole mentality when we were designing the whiskey was to stand out. So when you go to a shelf and you look at all the whiskies, they're predominantly black and green. So all of a sudden, when you have this neon vibrant pink with kind of cool artwork on the side, it stands out. So
it's like something out of a Barcelona art museum or art gallery or something, isn't it?
Oh my God, love that. I'm going to quote you on our website or something. That's a great little quote to use.
It is very, very different. Now, you said you're 43%.
Yeah.
I would have thought that might have been wiser to go lower because of all the cash.
Yeah. It is smarter from a revenue perspective, but to be honest, from a flavour perspective, like for our first release, we really wanted to get it right. Like, quality was table stakes for us. So we played around with it. We tried it at 40. We actually tried it at higher ABVs as well. But we felt like 43 was like the sweet spot for us for this one. You never know for future releases, but yeah.
Do you know who else is there are lots and lots of big advocates for whiskey, but my former co-presenter of this show, Jamie Heaslip.
Oh yeah.
I gather he's played a bit of rugby. He is very keen on his whiskey and he puts up the Friday tipple on his Twitter account.
I know. So we actually sent him a bottle.
And he didn't do it.
We're just waiting. We're waiting for Jamie to send it. Did he have a baby in the meantime?
He lives down the road from me. I shall remind him.
Yeah, give him a bit of peer pressure.
Come here to me. I am going to, unfortunately, and I knew we'd chat away on that, is that I'm going to have to let you go. But before we do, you know what we're going to ask you next is, who would Alice Carroll hire in a heartbeat?
So practically speaking, we actually need an operations manager. So I'm going to put a little plug in there if someone knows a bit of
What would an operations manager be? What would she have? What creds?
They would be a Swiss Army knife, for lack of a better term, because at the moment it's myself and Tony working full-time on the business. Okay. So someone that we bring in at this stage, we would love to have like familiarity with export, dealing with suppliers, we'll be working with them to source bottles and all those kind of things.
Swiss Army knife sounds more like a diamond in the rough or something.
I know, yeah. I know, but they're out there.
Okay.
But I also have an aspirational one. So like if there's no holds barred, finances and access wasn't an issue, I would say Lee Clow. Do you know who Lee Clow is? So he was... I
hear these names and say, nope.
Oh my God, you're going to love him. So,
CLOW, is he?
Yeah. So he was the chairman for TBWA, the agency, but he's basically the brains behind the Apple positioning of Think Differently. And remember that ad, the like iconic ad, 1984?
Yes.
All those like really impactful Apple ads, like the manifesto, all those things, he was behind them. And I just love the way his brain works. Like his whole like modus operandi is that you shouldn't do the right thing, because the right thing is what settles people. It calms people down. It's attractive in a presentation. It's what investors can get behind. It's soothing. You shouldn't do the wrong thing, obviously. That's just common sense. You should do the brave thing. So disruption is a choice. It's the thing that keeps you up at night. He has this manifesto, and to be honest, if anyone is interested in this conversation, he has this incredible manifesto. You can just look it up on YouTube, and it's all about the idea of doing the brave thing, the thing that's uncomfortable because it pushes you outside your comfort zone. It puts you out there for critique, but it's the thing that changes the world and it disrupts things.
And Alice Carroll is going to do that.
Hopefully.
Change the world.
Fingers crossed.
And I've now got this little idea in my head of a distillery in Limerick. I just love the idea. And that you guys would be behind it.
Yeah.
That would be the
different.
coolest thing. Like if you were leaving planet Earth and you had left a distillery behind you, wouldn't that be very nice?
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
I would like that a lot. Do you know who else you have to talk to? And you will find her, I think, on episode 64. Maybe you even know her. Katie Knight. Do you ever come across
No, but
Katie?
I did listen to her episode. She's
Katie
amazing.
Knight knows more about the booze business in North America. I know it's not your number one calling, but she is so good.
Yeah.
So interesting. And like, she should almost put you off the American booze market because you say, no, that cannot be so convoluted in the land of the free and free enterprise and everything else. They've got more barriers to entry than anything else. Yeah. But anyway, you know all of that. So anyway, Katie Knight, I shall connect the pair
That'd be
of you.
amazing. Thank you.
And thank you so much for coming up from Limerick to join us.
Thank you very much.
And that is Alice Carroll, co-founder of Fox's Bow, which is named after
a little side street in Limerick, which always traditionally housed a lot of creatives. So back in the day, it was dressmakers and artists, and now it's cool foodies and tattoo artists. And
you told me it was a hotel.
It's named originally, so it's called Bow because that's the shape of the arch. It's a type of architecture apparently. And then there was a hotel on the far side of it that was owned by the Foxes. So the street is called Fox's Bow. So yeah, very iconic Limerick place. Everyone in Limerick will know it, but luckily it's a name that travels as well.
Good. Well, we'll keep an eye out for your bottles. Where can we buy it across the country at the moment?
You can buy it online, as I said, at irishmalts.com, or you can buy it in select Super Value
stores. I can also buy it on your website, can I?
On our website,
you can, DPS will drop it around. I actually did a little bit of research on that as well. The DPS will drop it to you for about £6, isn't that right? But you can, from what I can see, I can get about 200 bottles and still be only charged £6.
Yeah, it's flat shipping.
Okay. There you go now.
It's very good. So if you want 200 bottles.
Little insider tip. Again, Alice, thank you very much for joining us on That Great Business Show. And that is it from That Great Business Show, episode 70. My thanks to all the team here at the Dublin Podcast Studios, including today's sound engineer, Brian Begley, and then Peter Rice, who every week makes sure we are the world's best-sounding podcast. Do please share this podcast with anyone who loves business, home or abroad. And also do subscribe to the podcast on your favourite podcast platform. That makes sure that Ireland's best business podcast is always close by. And do also please give us 5-star ratings. It seems to be the thing at the moment. We're here to help businesses just like yours. So if there's an issue or topic you would like us to cover, contact us using LinkedIn, where we have our dedicated LinkedIn page where you can have the chats with us. And if you're planning an ad campaign, we would love to help. Join companies like Big Red Cloud and organisations like ISME and Údarás na Gaeltachta, who recognise it's a great way to talk to Ireland's SMEs. Contact us at thatgreatbusinessshow.com. And as always, the great business insights you hear on The Great Business Show are only made possible thanks to our sponsor, the great makers of the world's best shaving oil, De Facto, made in Mayo, sold worldwide, and our thanks to them. And I know that Alice is going off with her 2 bottles of De Facto.
Try it.
There you go, because you recognised that it was the best.
Anyone can get.
And you told me that.
I did, yeah. I noticed that.
That shows that repetition works. From me, Conall Moran, the very well shaved Conall Moran, Gurv Mina Mahgav, agus Slán Tamil.